softball fields at Tiger Shark Cove Park in Wellington. She remembers herself like this, 6 years old, full of hope and big dreams.
My end goal was just to be a college athlete, and it wasn't just my goal, it was my whole family's goal.
Sadly, it was on the softball field where that dream came crashing down. At 17 years old, just 1 month after her mom went into remission from breast cancer, Jordan experienced her own heartbreaking diagnosis.
I started touring universities that were interested in me, so it was so cool that my dream was right there. We were about to achieve it, and I come back from the little tour we did, and I unexpectedly blacked out on the softball field.
It was Chiari malformation.
Chiari malformation is a serious neurological disorder where my cerebellum extends into my spinal canal, so it was blocking my cerebrospinal fluid to my brain. So that's how the blackout happened.
Brain surgery would be next.
First question I asked my neurosurgeon was, will I ever be able to play softball again? I was right. He was going to tell me I would never be able to put my uniform back on.
Jordan says she knew she now had two possible choices to make.
To either give up, feel bad for myself, or make something out of this adversity, and I chose to make something out of it. Different symptoms come up.
So she started her own business, creating and now selling limitless medical logs.
When my mom was diagnosed, I saw the need for it, but when my health failed, I really saw the need for a medical log for people to accurately track their pain and symptoms, so when you go back to your doctor, you now eliminate the guessing game.
Jordan says the response has been amazing.
Getting emails and messages from people using it, that's why I'm doing this.
Is she not?
First of all, I want to thank you all for being here. In 2019, I had an idea for this type of event to open the conversation to all aspects of one having a chronic health condition. In 2020, that event happened, and it was a success thanks to an incredible group, and now we're here for round 2 with a spin on it. I have to give a massive shout out to Emma, Junior Achievements, and Kaiser University for making this event happen. So thank you guys very much. I'm here today to take a few minutes to share my story with each of you. You all can hear me, correct? Okay, perfect. At 4 years old was the first time I ever stepped foot on a softball field, and I fell in love with that sport immediately. And I knew that this is what I wanted to do for as long as I possibly could. And 13 years later, April 13th, 2015, I was running for routine play at third base, but this time I blacked out unexpectedly. And I was in excruciating pain, a pain that I have never felt before. I knew something was wrong, but if there's any athletes in this room, you know you are not admitting when you are hurt. And I had my first ever pounding migraine, extreme neck and back pain. The lights were expanding, the noise was deafening in the stadium, and I really knew something was wrong. But I thought I tripped and fell, hurt my neck. I just add that to my ongoing list of injuries. But 2 months later, 50 migraines straight, I was now sitting in a neurosurgeon's office, absolutely terrified. He sent me for MRIs and CAT scans, and I come back for the results. And I remember the second he walked into the room, my heart sank. I really knew that something was wrong. And he said to me, Jordan, you have something called Chiari malformation. So, you guys see all the purple here, the purple ribbon? My ribbon color is purple. September is Chiari Awareness Month. Chiari malformation, as you saw in the video, is a rare but serious neurological disorder. Only 1 in 200,000 people have this condition, where my cerebellum extends into my spinal canal, blocking cerebrospinal fluid to and from my brain. The craziest part of my story is I was actually born with this condition, and I did not know until that random day. I never had one symptom, one migraine, nothing. And it took me losing my sport to realize that it molded me into the person I am today, to want to bring you all together, to raise awareness about people with chronic illnesses. So to give you a little bit of background on the surgery is called a Chiari decompression. It's where the surgeon had to remove the back of my skull to allow for more cerebrospinal fluid to flow to and from my brain. Because my cerebellum's lowered, you can't touch your cerebellum. After multiple opinions, all the doctors agreed in my case brain surgery was needed, and we scheduled it. My symptoms range from 3 to 6 debilitating migraines per week, intense neck and back pain, memory loss, I lose feeling in my hands and legs. But I made the decision to stay positive, because negativity is its own disease, and carrying that around will not only affect you and your health, but it'll affect those around you. So no matter what happens, I forgive and I forget. Actually, I just forget, but it works out the same. December 1st, 2015 was a normal school day for all my friends, but for me, I was walking through the hospital doors to have a 10-hour brain surgery. This was my junior year of high school. And 4 grueling nights in the pediatric intensive care unit. During my recovery, I felt like I was on this hamster wheel with my health. I couldn't accurately tell my medical team how I was since my last visit, and it was driving me absolutely insane. I knew there had to be a better way to do this. My time in the hospital made me realize that I am not going to allow this circumstance to define my life. I am going to take this adversity and turn it into a positive to help others in my shoes. At 20 years old, I launched my company, Limitless Medical Logs, which provides the paper medical journal and digital app that's a roadmap for someone like me to accurately track every pain, symptom, question, to better prepare yourself for those doctor's appointments. I want to end my speech with this little nugget. If you take anything from my speech and my story, I want you to take this. No matter how many times you get knocked down, it does not matter. What matters most is how many times you stand right back up. So, I always thought my purpose in life was to be a stellar athlete. That's what I was good at. That's all I knew at the time. But I played the hand that I was dealt, and I quickly found out that helping others is my purpose. And I am so grateful to still be here to this day, to be able to do that and be a catalyst, bringing you all together and everybody watching tonight to talk about how we can better support someone like me and how we can better educate the future healthcare professionals. So, thank you all for being here. I really hope you take something out of this and enjoy this night. I really do appreciate every single one of you here tonight, and also who showed up during the week. So thank you.
I have had the pleasure of sitting with Jordan on Monday, and I know that this story, every time I hear it, I'm re-inspired, and I think that message is so powerful. To stay positive and to remember that through it all, right? You said negativity can be its own disease, and you are a true inspiration for all of us, young and old. So thank you so much for sharing your story, and again, being the catalyst behind this.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So we are going to go ahead now and move into our panel, where you are going to hear from Jordan as well as our other amazing panelists who will introduce themselves here shortly. And we have an amazing moderator who I am incredibly grateful for him taking the time to come out and speak and moderate our event today. So Mr. Greg Quattlebaum, to me, he's the epitome, that perfect example of bringing together Palm Beach County. And he has such amazing experience with the schools and the healthcare industry that I'm really lucky that you're here. And I'm going to let you go ahead. You guys have his bio. You can see the incredible things that he's done in the community. And for our students out there listening, that can be you one day too. You can make that positive difference. But come on up and let's get the show started.
I don't know about all that, but let me just grab my stuff here. Oh my gosh. I tell you, I want to begin by really congratulating the Junior Achievement of the Palm Beaches for hosting your inaugural Invest in Yourself Health Resource Series. This is an exciting opportunity for local middle school, high school, and college students to hear from our esteemed panel of healthcare professionals as they show how they have utilized their passions and skills to create meaningful change through and in the healthcare industry. Hello, my friends. As Emma said, my name is Greg Quattlebaum, and I serve as the Executive Director for Leadership Palm Beach County, and I have the honor of serving as a moderator tonight. Thank you so much for the invitation. Coffee with her is dangerous, because that's how we started, and that's probably 5 years ago or so, maybe? 4 or 5 years ago. So, yeah, So she reached out, and we connected, and have been good friends ever since. So thank you. But allow me to begin by taking this opportunity to sincerely thank the leadership and staff at Junior Achievement of the Palm Beaches, especially Emma Green. She's the manager of the secondary programs, and I thank her for utilizing your passions and skills to inspire and prepare young people to succeed. So thank you, Emma. You are a blessing to our community. So without further ado, let us direct our attention to our panelists. Right? Now, the biographies have all been circulated, but I'd like to begin with some brief introductions just to identify everyone at our panel here. You've already met Jordan, and to her left, Dr. Rosemarie Gruskowski. Everybody seems to call her Dr. G, and she is the nursing program director here at Kaiser University. Next to her is Mr. Patrick McNamara. He is the president and CEO of the Palm Health Foundation. And then we have Dr. Alex Castellano. He's an associate professor at the Kaiser University College of Chiropractic Medicine. And then Dr. Kalpana Sundar. She is a board certified otolaryngologist. Ears, nose, and throat. Okay. And and she is a surgeon that specializes in the head and neck area. For our panelists tonight, this first question is for each of you. And each of you, you've already been introduced, so we're going to start with Dr. G. But the first question is to please, in a way of an introduction, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you've utilized your passions and skills to create meaningful change across and in the healthcare industry. I think it's already on, correct? Yes.
Good afternoon, everyone.
No. It's actually for our YouTube video. It's in the camera.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Dr. Rosemarie Gruchkovsky. I am the program director here in this university, in this campus at Kaiser University for nursing. This is both for the Associate in Nursing and the Bachelor of Science in Nursing here serving this community. So a little bit about my passion is seeing the transition with nursing students. I bring students in and I individually interview each of them. I spend probably about 40 minutes to 1 hour with each student. At least that's my goal. And I've been doing that for probably about 1.5 years now. And what I've seen is when those students come in, a lot of times they're very shy. A lot of times they're uncertain. They're not confident in where they are planning to go. And myself and the nursing team help them along the way. And when we see that transformation at the end, when we see them going to their pinning ceremony, and when we see them going to their graduation, it's so rewarding because they have transformed. And knowing that myself and my nursing team has been an integral part of that is one of the most rewarding experiences that I've actually had. And to even go further, when I go out in the community, and I do go out to the community, to the hospitals, when I see them and they are actually there making a difference in the community, I feel such a sense of fulfillment. Thank you.
Thank you. Patrick.
Thank you. My name is Pat McNamara. I am the president and CEO of Palm Health Foundation. My passion got started in this work many moons ago through family tragedy. Actually on the news tonight on WPBF, you might see a little snippet on that because I was interviewed earlier today. But not to belabor that point, I had been studying government as an undergraduate at Georgetown University. After the family tragedy, I changed my major to psychology and then got my master's in social work. So I'm a clinical social worker. And I've been at Palm Health Foundation for a little over 5 years now. And Palm Health Foundation, if you're not familiar with it, is a community foundation for health for Palm Beach County. We are all about improving the health of Palm Beach County residents. We're both a grant maker and a fundraiser, and we focus specifically on brain health is one of the areas that we advance and that I'm very passionate about. It's actually one of the things that Jordan and I first met over when she reached out to me probably 3 years ago. And we also focus on building a culture of health, as we refer to it. We were really fortunate in Palm Beach County last year to be awarded a national prize by the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, recognizing the work that we've done here collaboratively for improving health, called the Culture of Health Prize. So that was a real feather in the cap of the county. We applied on behalf of the county for it, but we have a lot of really wonderful assets in improving health here. And then the third area is focusing on strengthening the health professions, and particularly when it comes to nursing and behavioral health. So I'm happy to talk with folks afterwards. One of the things we do is provide scholarships in nursing and in behavioral health. We've got a project that we're starting this year, given the toll that the pandemic has taken on the healthcare professions, especially with nurses, elevating the voice of nurses who are practicing, to be able to hear from nurses on the ground their perception of how things can change for the better.
Thank you. Dr. Castellano, here at Kaiser University as a chiropractor. Thank you, Jordan, for being with us, and seeing her family, parents, grandparents, the love and support in the second row has been amazing, so thank you for joining us also. I got into the healthcare industry from a lot of mentors in my life. My uncle, Dr. August LaRufa, and Dr. Ralph Mangels up in New York have been great influences on me to show me that there's more to healthcare when you put people over profits. Typically, doctors will interrupt the patient about 11 seconds into that first appointment. I don't understand how you can really form a relationship and understand what's going wrong with the patient without hearing their story and having them be heard first. So my mentors did a great job of teaching me that. And what kept me in the healthcare industry has been the profound impact that you can have on people when you really get to know them. Look at them as a whole person, so diet, exercise, mental health and well-being, and putting it all together in the form of healthcare.
Hello, I'm Dr. Kalpana Sundar, and I practiced ear, nose, and throat for almost 20 years, and I enjoyed making that positive impact for my patients, but then I had a little bit of a shift in what I wanted to do. I had done professional speaking throughout my career. I'd done some local TV, and I realized there that I had a bigger reach, that I could actually spread and inspire change a little bit faster because I could do it with more people. So then I decided that I wanted to do professional speaking, and I was always passionate about helping women because women deal with some different things in medicine and in the healthcare industry, and I felt like this was a great way to inspire change and inspire women to take control of their lives, not be so overwhelmed, set better boundaries, improve their work-life balance, and have more career satisfaction. So that's what I do now, and I'm very excited about it. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you. Dr. Sundar, you can actually keep the microphone if you'd like. The next question is going to be directed to Dr. Sundar, then Mr. McNamara, and then Dr. Castellano. And the question is, how did you get into the healthcare industry, and why do you stay?
Well, my journey into healthcare started with my dad being sick. So I was about 5 years old, and my father was ill with pneumonia, I believe, at the time. And when you're a little girl and you watch your father sick, and somebody's supposed to be your strength and your rock, it's a pretty scary experience. And I knew at that moment that I wanted to not only help him, but I knew that I wanted to help people in general. So I told my father, really proud, I'm going to be a doctor one day, Dad, and I'm going to make sure I can help you. I'm a little late for that, but so that's how it started. I loved science, I loved math, so it seemed like the natural choice. I do really love helping people, and I think over the years, the ways that I help people has changed, but it's always about helping people.
Dr. Alex,
Oh,
you can.
sorry.
So, health is really, I think, the greatest commodity that we do have. If you strip everything else away, really the thing that keeps you moving, keeps you going, is our health. I was able to get into a field that emphasizes on movement, using movement as medicine, pairing that with nutrition, and any other aspect of health. So what really got me into it was finding a way to health without the use of drugs or surgery. A lot of doctors will come to us. They see patients with low back pain. They want other options other than to give them drugs. They're looking for other outlets. I think chiropractic does a really good job of providing a safe alternative to that. And that's really what's kept me in it, is seeing these profound effects that we can have just by making some basic lifestyle changes.
So I mentioned what brought me into it was a family tragedy. I'm one of 7 kids. 5 of the 7 kids in the family had pretty significant mental health challenges. My brother, who was 2 years older than me when we were in school together, took his own life when he was 21, I was 19. So that was, devastating for our family. It absolutely changed the course of my life. But when I decided to get into social work and behavioral health and community development later on, it continued to recur to me that our family had resources. And by the way, the rest of the folks in my family are doing great. It was a long time ago, married with kids and wonderful, beautiful families and wonderful lives. But so many of the folks that I began to work with in my clinical internships and different things that I was exposed to in direct practice in clinical social work, most of the folks did not have the resources my family had. And so that has been one of my motivating factors for continuing to stay in the practice. And I went from direct practice into administration, and now being at a foundation, I like to push the boundaries and lead change for better health. That's our tagline. And that's what keeps me in it, because there are so many different particular areas for improvement, particularly when it comes to brain health, behavioral health. And we've just had an explosion of understanding the way that the brain works in a better way just within the past 2 decades. But we're still only scratching the surface. I'd say we probably still only understand about 10% of the overall amount of what's going on in the brain. So I think that's also tremendously exciting, and the hope and the opportunity. So I really want to push the research, support neuroscience, support applied neuroscience, improving care and behavioral health, as well as for neurodegenerative diseases. So I get a little animated.
You keep the microphone just
Sure.
for a second. So our next question is for Mr. McNamara, Dr. G, and for Jordan. Can you talk a little bit about some of the specific ways that you have advocated for change and the successes and challenges you face?
Sure. So one of the things that in America that we continue to struggle with in terms of our healthcare system is we tend to equate healthcare with health. And there's a whole lot of things that go to our having good health that aren't necessarily delivered by your doctor and your nurse. They're kind of a whole lot of preventative things and things that folks can be doing to maintain not only mental wellness, but also overall wellness. And so that's what we refer to as the social determinants of health. And one of the things I continue to advocate for change on, and I think we've been making some headway on it, it's one of the reasons why we won the Culture of Health Prize from the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, is continuing to shine a light on how to leverage the social determinants of health. And that is easier said than done, but it comes with a lot of grassroots community work, and it comes with really developing relationships with people on the ground, and having pathways for folks to be able to participate in improving the health of their neighborhoods and that sort of thing. And so we've made some good strides in that front, and it's a change that I'm proud of.
Dr. G?
Okay, so nursing, it is the largest group of healthcare professionals that there are nationwide. There's approximately 4 million nurses that is in the US. And with such a large number should come a little bit of power. We have a voice. Unfortunately, nurses, their voice is not where it really should be at this point in time. And that's something that I advocate for with our students, to get out, to be policymakers, to be change agents, because we have a voice and we have so much to offer. Especially in the last few years, this has become apparent with the pandemic, even before, but we got like a big spotlight during the pandemic. And, you know, unfortunately, the pandemic, people want to become nurses. We have people coming in to the profession, but we also have people leaving. Some people are leaving because of age. They are reaching their retirement age. Some people are leaving because they are burnt out. We hear a lot of that happening in the community. We try to instill in students to have a work-life balance. That can be a bit challenging for students. So become change agents, you know, become a policymaker, do something for your own community. And when I say community, I'm talking about the nursing community that is serving the community that they actually live in. So my thing is, go out, become educated, become knowledgeable, seek those higher education so you could be a voice for change.
I think Pat touched on it perfectly. Going out into the community, who's boots on the ground, that's how you and I connected. I reached out to you, I think on LinkedIn, like 20 years old. I had so many ideas and I wanted to help our community, like Dr. G just said. And our community is at brain health. I have a chronic condition, but a lot of times the mental health gets overlooked with that as well. So that's a big reason I reached out to you. It's a big reason I reached out to Greg. So for me, it's creating community connections, like Emma, and creating an event like this and bringing you all together.
I'm going to take this time to encourage and remind everybody to look to submit your questions through the Slido, because we're going to have opportunity for that Q&A. So, be submitting your questions this time. The next question is actually related to the college level. Maybe we pass the microphone down to Dr. Sundar. So, what is the biggest disconnect that you see from those entering the healthcare industry at either the high school or college?
I was talking about this earlier. I feel that the biggest disconnect is they don't have a realistic idea of what to expect going forward. It seems that as students or high school students, they have this vision of like racing to one step, then the next step, then the next step. And I feel like medicine gets viewed as a bit of a sprint. I know that when I went into medicine, I thought of it as a sprint. I was racing to, get through medical school and then internship and residency, one thing after the other. And I think it creates an unhealthy dynamic, because that's what leads to burnout, when you're just burning the candle at both ends, not really taking time for yourself. And so that's really what I want to propagate to be changed in the way we think. So I also feel that, with people in general, if you look at medicine as more of a marathon where you pace yourself, you take things slower, you make sure you spend time with family and friends, you take time for yourself, but still get your things done, it's going to lead to something much more sustainable, decrease burnout, and also we're left with then healthcare providers who are grounded in themselves and can take better care of patients.
Dr. G?
I can speak about college age students. So one of the biggest disconnect that I see is having that life balance when they are trying to pursue their higher degree. A lot of times, like Dr. Sundar said, they come in with unrealistic expectations. And we have to try to remind them that you are, you do have a family, you do have children, you do have parents, but in the same token, you have to put in the time. Nursing is not easy. In 2011, there was a study that was done, and it, based on the results, undergrad, bachelor level nursing was voted as the most difficult program that there was to complete, or degree in which to get. Again, I'm talking about a bachelor's degree. So for students, one of the things I try to instill with them is you have to look at the big picture. You cannot just only focus on one thing. Sometimes you need to take a little time just for yourself. I tell students, I was like, if you don't do well in an exam, this is almost like going through a grieving process. It's okay to break down a little bit. It's okay to cry. It's okay to take the night off and be like, okay, I'm done for the day. But then don't stay down. Get back up. What are you going to do with this? If you stay down, you're not going to reach anywhere. And, a lot of my panelists, they shared the same thing. I try to remind them to be positive. Positivity is what gets them going and what keeps them to the end.
We're going to go to Dr. Castellano next with our next question. And this is a good one. This is, we're going to break out the crystal ball, okay? And, Mr. McNamara referred to how far we've come along in brain health in the last, say, 2 decades. Let's look forward, because we are talking to our future in medicine are on listening in this program, okay? So, in your crystal ball, what do you predict will happen in the next 5 to 10 years in healthcare, and what new skills are going to be needed?
So I hope the shift goes from more of a sick-based care to more of a preventative-based care happening at the individual level. I'm hoping to see that shift happen within the healthcare setting. And it does happen with each individual, taking sort of ownership of your own health, sort of the first start. Some skills needed for that. A lot of it's going to be sort of at the individual community level, making this more accessible to everyone. Not everyone has access to healthcare providers, unfortunately. So making that available, events like this where we can bring healthcare leaders together to talk about their experience and how you can get involved and help. And then having a group of students, which I'm seeing already, going less from, like you were mentioning earlier, going from the next step to memorizing to test, but really to sitting down with the information and understanding it and learning how to apply it to themselves and the people around them, and sort of having that effect within their circle, I think is what's going to really bring us forward.
Okay. Mr. McNamara, sorry to give you the warning, and then Dr. Sundar.
So in my crystal ball, what I hope materializes, let me first say, one is definitely going to continue to happen. So you can bank on this in terms of deepening the science, the scientific understanding, and the technological sophistication of the way that we go about treating in healthcare. Those things will continue to advance. I hope, and it's one of the things we're really involved with right now, is, and everybody's touched on it in some way, shape, or form, that we move beyond the sort of mechanistic way that we tend to treat folks when it comes to healthcare. What I would refer to as humanizing healthcare and humanizing health and whole person health, and the relationship between whoever the caregiver is and the person who's receiving, and taking responsibility for your own health, that we move more from what can I do to you to what can we do together.
If you keep the microphone just for a second. As we talk about this next generation of healthcare providers, and you've talked about how far we've come in the brain health. Can you touch just a little bit on AI, artificial intelligence, and what do you think that role is going to be in the future of this?
Sure. I mean, having done somewhat of a deep dive in that area, and with friends who are pretty much in the AI healthcare space, that is, when I mentioned the scientific understanding and the technological sophistication, that's definitely going to continue to play a part. But it's never going to be able to replace the human-to-human interaction. It just won't. It won't replace the decision making. It's going to still rely on the nurse, the doctor, the other healthcare professionals. But it will continue to accelerate our understanding of, especially when it comes to like the brain, as complex as it is. We just gave a grant this past year to the FAU Styles Nicholson Brain Institute to start a computational neuroscience program. That's a mouthful. But that is taking really powerful computational techniques to begin to understand neural circuitry and the other very complex structures at the molecular level in the brain, which defies basically our ability to do it in terms of the different sort of powerful computational methods that you need to be able to depict that. So I think there's no doubt that that's going to continue to be at play, but it's not going to be the silver bullet that everybody expects it to be. It is going to just provide greater understanding, some efficiencies, but it's never going to replace the human-to-human piece, which I think is completely undervalued.
And if you could pass the crystal ball to Dr. Sandor.
So I loved what you said, by the way, about humanizing medicine and working collaboratively with our patients. And I think for me, my crystal ball, I'd like to see the system change, the whole process of becoming physicians, and I'd like to see that more humanized. I feel that sometimes after medical training and after many years of it, many of us come out pretty broken. So it's hard to be as human as we'd like to be when we come out of a system that broke us to some extent. So I know I've spent years of my life unbreaking what was broken, and I think that if we are more compassionate with our physicians to be, nurses to be, mid-levels to be, I think we're going to see a real inspiring change on the horizon, because when we're treated more compassionately, it's a lot easier for us to be more compassionate to others.
Bring the microphone down this way. Again, one more reminder that this is your opportunity to ask specific questions of our panelists. So using your Slido, now's the time to submit those questions. As we come to one last question, why don't we come to Jordan actually? Because I want everybody's thoughts on this one. Okay, this is a good one. Okay. What is the one thing that you want this audience, this greater audience, to do as a result of this brilliant conversation? One actionable item.
Have more compassion for if you're going into the healthcare field, to be more open-minded and more compassionate for someone with a chronic illness, a mental illness. That is one thing, compassion.
Dr. G?
The one thing for me is that I would say, be kind to your nurses.
Yes. That's good. Yeah.
That's perfect. I'd say practice dignity in all that you do, to yourself and to all the folks that you're working with.
I would say take individual ownership and try to help the next people in line. So if you see someone behind you who's been through a similar struggle, maybe go offer that hand unprovoked.
I would say gratitude. I start my day every day with a gratitude list, and I think when we live in the place of gratitude, that everything is brighter and better. And Dr. G, I agree. I feel nurses don't get enough rewards for the hard job that they do.
Awesome. I want to thank the panelists for this portion of our program. These were some questions that we wanted to bring forward to you. And now we're going to go to the questions from the audience, okay? So this is definitely wild card time, okay? So, and feel free, if you're moved by it, to call for the microphone, and each of you, anybody who wants to participate. Okay. Starts right off the bat. What is the biggest mistake you have made in your career, and what did you learn from it? So who wants to take that first? No mistakes here. That's right.
I can think of one right off the top of my head. Since I have the microphone, I'll go. I would say the biggest mistake is really just not taking enough time and focusing on other things. I still am a very driven person, and I can tend to get I go straight ahead to get something accomplished. And I wish I had stopped a little more often. I've enjoyed things, smelled the roses. I wish I had maybe reveled in those moments when my kids were growing up, but I was too busy, and now they're all grown up. So those are some definite mistakes that I would love to go back and fix.
I'd say the biggest mistake I made was in being a new CEO at a previous place where I worked, and trying to salvage what had been a failing children's community mental health center, and being responsible for the financing of that, making sure that people were being paid and all of that sort of thing, and feeling that pressure, and not owning that enough, and really putting the pressure on the folks who are providing the services. And I saw, in terms of that being a quick mistake, thankfully it didn't go too far, that I was able to course correct, and the relationship and valuing the folks who are providing the services without putting undue pressure from a financial perspective is an invaluable lesson from an administrative standpoint in healthcare.
Mine is similar to Pat. My biggest mistake was I put too much pressure on myself. I was so used to, as an athlete, go, go, go. You can't ever take a break. You're hurt, you keep going. I should have realized that I'm a student, which I was a college student at a time, and I was running my business. But I just kept going and going and going, and I never took a break because I knew what my end goal was. So that was my biggest mistake, and I realized, I think 2 years ago, I started to slow down and not put as much pressure on myself. I know I'll get there one day, but my health comes first.
Okay. I'm going to maybe just rephrase that, because we have maybe Dr. G and Dr. Alex. Instead of what is the biggest mistake, when you interact with students or students that come back to and you see them, what is one thing that they say, I wish I would have known that, or I would have known this then? Is there something that in their experience that didn't align with their expectations?
Sometimes what students come back and say is they don't really understand when it comes to nursing, the application process that nursing is about. Most of their gen ed courses are knowledge-based. You take anatomy and physiology, you take microbiology and so forth. And sometimes when they get into nursing, it's a bit of a shock for them. And they tend to think, okay, I'll play catch up. I'll catch up by the next exam. I'll catch up by the final exam. Oh, unfortunately, I failed this course. I will catch up when I get to the next semester and so forth. But one thing with nursing, everything that you do from your gen ed courses is your foundation to move up into those other courses. It is prerequisites to get to the next level and to the next level. So that's one of the biggest disconnect that I see that students don't really understand, coming in the amount of dedication and the amount of time that they have to focus and dedicate to the program.
Dr. Castellano, maybe we'll go to another question, unless you want to address that.
Yeah, just quickly.
Oh, please. Okay.
Something that I saw is most students coming back saying one thing that they wished they knew earlier was humility in terms of not always having the right answer for the patient. A lot of times patients will ask them a few questions and they're young, they feel like they have to know exactly what's wrong and how to fix it. Unfortunately, fortunately the best thing I could do is sort of tell them, I'm not sure, but I'm going to find out for you. And that provides sort of like a realistic expectation for the patient. And they do right by them. So,
Dr. Sundar, right next to you. And this is coming from the future of our healthcare providers. What is one piece of advice you would give to those going into the healthcare profession?
Probably the biggest piece of advice I would say is always put your own health first. Be it physical and mental well-being first. I think many of us fall into the trap that we care for other people, we want to take care of other people, but you know that saying, you can't pour from an empty cup. So we can't, it's all, you get on the airplane, they say put your mask on first. I think so many of us are guilty of not putting our masks on and wanting to help everybody else. And then what happens is that supply is limited, whereas if you actually put that mask on, you have a lot more you can give.
We're going to come right on down. I'd like to hear everybody's thoughts on this.
yeah, I wouldn't really change too much from that. I think she
There you go, right.
I think she hit it dead on the head. Really, the more you take care of yourself mentally, physically, and emotionally, the more you can sort of outpour that to your patients and people around you. So yeah, that was pretty spot on.
Thanks. Yeah, and I don't have much to add to that either. I mean, it's a wonderful piece of advice. The only other thing I would say is just be prepared for that tension when it comes to, there's so much compliance stuff in healthcare, and it's the least favorite thing that any healthcare professional will probably tell you, in terms of a part of their job. But never let that squeeze out why you got into it in the first place. That's usually a commitment to healing.
I would say that it's important for people to take a break. Kind of touched on a little bit of what Dr. Sundar said as well. But it's okay to take a break. It's okay to take a pause. Sometimes life events happen, and you just have to stop and assess where you are and assess your goals and how you want to move forward with it. So it's okay. It's okay to pause. Hit that pause button, do an assessment, and then it can always come back. It's always waiting for you.
I don't have anything to add.
Okay.
That was soft.
Okay. So another question is, what can people do to get in front of their own health, like preventative care?
Exercise, eat right, get enough sleep. Please do not read a lot of Google and diagnose yourself.
Dr. Google.
I would only add to that stress management. And by the way, those things are also pillars of brain health.
Find someone to help you, so sort of a coach or a mentor in your life. Even for healthcare professionals, they think they know it all in terms of whatever field they're in, but it's hard to look objectively at what's going on in your own life. So to have someone hold you accountable and be a coach or mentor for you, I think that'll really help you a lot in a lot of aspects of life.
I would say being your own advocate. So when you go to see a physician, I love what you've done with the medical logs. If you are clear with the people that are providing you care and giving them good information, they are better able to help you.
Okay, this next question is directed to Jordan Ray and to Mr. McNamara. So Jordan, why don't you let me come down here first? Okay, this is a good question. How have you stayed positive even through those difficult times?
I remember my why every single day. I remember why did I start my business? To help people. Why do I do keynote speaking? To help people. I keep that in the front of my mind every single day when I have those bad days, which I do a lot. physically and mentally. I just remember why I'm doing what I'm doing and how many people I've helped and how many people I've impacted. And I just absolutely love what I do.
I don't always stay positive. Let me say that first time. The main way that I stay positive, one of my favorite authors, you guys have probably never heard of him, a guy named Walker Percy. He's a novelist from New Orleans. He talks about the search, and that if you're not on the search, then you're in despair. But if you're on the search, you're onto something. And to me, if I'm on the search, I stay positive.
We started off with, remember, it was like, what's your mistake? More positive. What is your proudest accomplishment in healthcare? Proudest accomplishment. Give us some thought. And then is she going to answer for the whole panel?
Just hands me the microphone. I would say I am most proud of the fact that I finished up residency, moved down to Florida, and started my own ear, nose, and throat practice. I didn't have a clue what I was doing. I didn't have a clue how to run a practice. I didn't know how to hire people. I just was this, I think I was 33 at the time, 33. And I had no idea about any of it, and I just did it. And 20 years later, I had a booming practice with, physician's assistants and other physicians, and just so many patients that I was able to impact over the 20 years that I was in practice. And I'm just proud that I had the guts to do it, even though I really didn't know what I was doing, but I just did it anyway.
So the proudest moment professionally was probably when I was able to treat athletes up in Boston and see them come off a terrible injury and being able to go to their games, the finish line at Boston marathons, and sort of see the hard work they put in, come to realization, be part of that moment with them. Personally, the healthcare field has brought me to meet my fiance in school together. It's brought me closer to family in the field. So it's done a lot of great things for me, both personally and professionally.
So I think I already mentioned the Culture of Health Prize. We can all be proud of that. It's not a personal accomplishment, but the work that we contributed to is a very long process, very competitive, but to be able to bring that and build on it.
So I'll give you a little history. When I was in my mid-20s, I had a traumatic, life-changing, life-altering medical complication. I ended up in the hospital, and I was told that had I not come in 2 more days, I would not be around anymore. It's not a story I share very often. That changed my life. That's what brought me into the healthcare field. I actually was an accountant before I came into nursing. And I wanted to understand what is happening to my body. I wanted to understand what the healthcare professionals were saying to me. They were using words and even sentence structure that I could not understand, and they tried to put it in layman terms as much as they can, but I just didn't know. So for me, one of the proudest moments that I had was taking all of that, turning it around, and actually getting my doctoral degree. I went and I got my bachelor's degree in nursing. I went and I got my master's in nursing education, and then I did my PhD in nursing research. And for me, that was the most astounding, accomplishment that I've had.
I know you asked for one, but there's 2 things for me. And I just can't decide because it ties into this event. I'm very proud of myself for putting myself out there, sitting down with you, and helping you make this event happen. 2 years ago, a similar event happened, but it was because I took a risk and I asked a question, and I wanted people to believe in my idea and what I wanted to do. But the true thing that I'm most proud of, in Wellington, Florida, we have a massive clock, and we all know that September is Chiari Awareness Month, and my ribbon color is purple. 2 years ago, I created a proclamation with the Village of Wellington that clock will be lit purple, and it's massive. You could see it driving down, I think it's Forest Hill Boulevard. You can see it from afar. So every September moving forward, the clock will be lit purple, and that right there is probably my proudest moment.
Well, that's going to conclude our question and answer time. I'm just moved with just the various levels of expertise that they bring. The common thread of service to each other, of compassion, about care. And I think that's what really makes that healthcare profession so meaningful, so meaningful. And to Dr. Sundar's point, it also weighs heavy on you as well, and you overextend yourself. But it's like, how do you get through? What is your proudest moment? And it's that service to others that's impressive, and it's in the giving of ourselves that we receive. So, Emma, would you like to make some closing remarks?
Sure, just real quick.
Okay.
All right. I completely agree with that big takeaway, and I had one as well that I wanted to share with the group that I heard from all of our panelists that I think is a really important reminder for everyone in here, whether you're a student or a community member. It is incredibly important to help others, but we also have to take care of ourselves. And so here today, we are shaping the future of healthcare. We're investing in ourselves and reminding ourselves that it's okay sometimes to take a little breather, right? But together we can make a stronger Palm Beach County. And I just want to thank you all for your commitment and dedication to this area and the amazing impact that you've made.